The Pied Piper of Hamelin. I'm sure most of you are aware of this classic fairy tale. It's the story of a town named Hamelin which has become overrun by a rat infestation, where the rats would eat all the food and spread disease throughout the town. The townspeople tried all sorts of methods to combat the rats, but all were ineffective. Suddenly, a stranger would appear from over the hills and claim that he would be able to get rid of the rats if the town agreed to pay him. The stranger of course being the Pied Piper, who using his whimsical pipe would start playing a tune, which not only attracted the rats to him, but would also cause them to follow his whereabouts. The Piper would lead the rats out of town and free the people from their epidemic. However, when it came to paying the Piper, the town decided that since the rats were now gone, there was no need to pay him anymore, and so they refused. The Piper, enraged by this, begins to play his pipe once again, only this time, instead of attracting rats, it's the town's children that follow the music. And so just like he did with the rats, the Piper leads the children out of town. The townspeople realise the error of their ways, and finally agree to pay the Piper, where the children are then reunited with their parents, and all is good and happy. It's a fairly simple story, and is often told to children to teach them the moral of what will happen if you become selfish or lie. And then we have this film. Yes, The Pied Piper from 1986, originally titled Kaisar, which translates to The Ratcatcher. The film is a stop-motion adaptation of the original fairy tale, produced in Czechoslovakia and directed by Jiří Bárta. This isn't actually the first time we've covered the work of Jiří Bárta, as a short while ago I reviewed his 2009 film, Toys in the Attic, which despite being a film intended for kids, was riddled with creepy imagery such as this. And this was Jiří Bárta when he was trying to make more of a family film. The Pied Piper, however, was intended for a more mature audience, and boy does it take advantage of that. We get murder, blood, creepy imagery, and of course, some rape. Boy, what a great way to kick off the new year. So let's take a look at The Pied Piper. But first, a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, Ridge Wallet, with its light, sleek, and industrial design that doesn't awkwardly bulge in your pocket.
But tell me, Eddie, is that
wallet
in your pocket or you're just happy to see me?
You can certainly see the size difference from my old wallet. There's over 30 colours and styles to choose from, including burnt titanium and carbon fibre, which is the one I personally went for. Ridge Wallet comes with a lifetime warranty, plus a 45-day free trial, so if for whatever reason you're not satisfied with your purchase, you can send it back and get a full refund. Just head on over to ridge.com/SteveReviews and use the code SteveReviews to get 10% off today, plus free shipping and returns. Thank you so much guys, now back to the review. Right from the opening, you can tell this isn't going to be your classic child-friendly fairy tale. The impending music coupled with the heartbeat-like clock sounds, the dreary aesthetic, and the stylistic designs. We're introduced to the town of Hamelin, set during the Middle Ages. The first thing you're going to notice is the warped design of the town and its residents. The skewed design is actually meant to be inspired by German Expressionism, a creative movement which became popular in Germany during the 1910s to 1930s, offering a more expressive and anti-realistic view of the world. Basically, it was the Tim Burton before Tim Burton. Jiří Bárta stated that in his adaptation, he wanted to capture more of the German spirit, which, let's see, dreary, humourless, yet efficient citizens, yeah, that seems to be capturing the German spirit. The style also extends into the human characters themselves, who were given abstract and mechanical-like designs. This is in contrast to the rats, who have a more realistic appearance and even features some live action shots. This, according to Jiribata, was done intentionally to give the idea that the rats were more alive than the humans. Which is what we see in the opening scenes of this film, as we draw parallels between the day-to-day lives of the human characters to the mechanics of a ticking clock. Not only showing the mundane and restricted lifestyles they lead, but maybe also highlighting how they are a slave to time itself. I mean, as we saw in the film Toys in the Attic, Jiribata does seem to have a beef against clocks. It's also worth noting that there's no dialogue in this film, as all the characters will communicate in sim-like mumblings.
They speak English and what? English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
Perhaps again, another intentional choice to make the human characters come across as, well, less human. And yeah, right off the bat we are shown that we are not meant to root for these characters, as we see that they are selfish and malicious, with greed and desire for material wealth. Because as we know, people are arseholes. We then see the town's council, who in contrast to the citizens who are freaking out about the cost of a bag of flour, the town's leaders live a life of luxury, so much so that they can afford to be as wasteful as they please, and end up throwing food everywhere. Which of course the rats take full advantage of. All this excessive food leads to the rats increasing in numbers, and becoming more bold and aggressive.
Here's Johnny!
And that's when our hero of the film turns up, the Pied Piper, who oh wow, he looks just as terrifying and menacing as the people. This is the hero, right? Normally the Pied Piper is depicted as the colourful and joyful persona, sort of having a jester-like appearance. But here he looks less of a jester and more of a Jedi, kind of like a pissed off Anakin Skywalker. Must have been from all that sand he encountered in the desert.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
The Piper approaches the town council and demonstrates his ability to lure the rats away with his magical pipe. The town leaders are impressed by his actions and agree to pay him 1,000 gold coins. The Pied Piper agrees and heads out into the town to begin leading the rats away. Meanwhile, there's this weird subplot going on where this creepy guy is trying to woo a young woman by offering her a gold ring. But unlike the rest of the townspeople who are driven by material wealth, she is not interested. What she does appear to be interested in, however, is the Pied Piper. For reasons I'm not entirely sure why. I mean, yeah, creepy hooded old guy that has a bunch of diseased rats following him, that's ticking all the boxes. Or maybe it's just the fact that he can play a fine tune. No wonder so many guys like to bring their guitars along to parties. Play Wonderwall! The Piper leads the rats to the top of the city wall and has the rats run off the edge, where they brutally drown in the water below. Christ, that seems a bit harsh. I mean, I know they're rats and they're meant to be gross and all, but they're just trying to live their lives too, you know? I remember when I heard about this story as a kid, we were always told that the rats were simply lured into the woods where they could live their lives in peace away from humans. But it seems I was pretty sheltered in that regard, as even in most of the kid-friendly versions the story does indeed say that the rats were led to the river and drowned. I guess even fairy tales don't like rats that much.
In no time, all the rats, mesmerized by his tune, fell into the river and drowned.
Yeah, drown you diseased cretins!
I can't look!
I mean, Christ, this last little rat doesn't even want to jump. It even looks up to the Piper as if to say, please don't make me do this. To which the Piper just amplifies his tune and the poor little guy is forced to go anyway. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'd be better off in the river after all. Satisfied with his rat genocide, the Piper heads back into town where he and the young woman sit together as he plays her some more fine tunes.
What you did with those awful rats was so totally hot. Tell me, does that magical pipe of yours also happen to work on Jews?
Capturing the German spirit. He then heads to the town council to receive his payment, but they of course refuse to pay him. This enrages the Pied Piper so damn much that he decides to simply walk away. Okay. But here's where the film really starts to get darker. So we cut back to the young woman asleep in her bed when suddenly the creepy guy turns up intoxicated, trying once more to win her over with his offerings. She once again politely refuses. We then get a truly horror-like scene as the guy attacks her, and although we don't actually see it, it is implied that the three men rape and murder her. All this whilst coupled with the distorted music, flickering lighting, and warped imagery makes it a truly uncomforting scene to watch.
I'm going to get nightmares about that again.
The Pied Piper returns to the house shortly after, where he finds her murdered body. Enraged even further, the Piper marches to the town's clock tower, where he begins to play another tune. Now, in the original tale, this tune would cause the children to follow the Piper just as the rats did. And depending on which version you were told, the children were either returned once the Piper got his money, or were just never heard from again. In this version, however, it goes a little darker, as the tune lures the town folks out of their home and begins turning them into rats, in what is actually some pretty creepy moments. The new ratified townspeople, don't think that's a word, what do you know, it is, begin to follow the Piper as he parades them through the town. And just like the fate that besieged the rats before, the Piper leads them to the city walls, where he makes them plunge off the edge, where we hear their frantic cries for help as they drown in the water below.
Oh my god!
So glad I decided to review this. Only one person is left surviving, and that's an old fisherman who had been watching the Piper from afar. The fisherman approaches the Piper, but before anything can be said, the Piper disappears, leaving only his cape, which blows off into the wind. Fuck you, sand, try getting in my shoes now. The fisherman ventures into the abandoned town, where he hears the faint cries of a baby. The fisherman takes the child, and leaves the town on what appears to be a painting visual of some sort, where the film ends and the credits roll. And that's Jiri Bata the Pied Piper. Certainly an interesting adaptation from the classic fairy tale, some of which I think works better, and other parts not so much. The first half of the film does suffer from a slow pace. As we're looking into the lives of the town's citizens, the Piper himself doesn't actually show up until around the halfway mark. I do prefer this film's take on the Piper's revenge, where he turns the citizens into the very rats that they despise and look down upon, as it seems like a more fitting fate for them, and is something that punishes them directly. I always thought the original tale of having the Piper take the kids away was a bit unfair on the children, who didn't really do anything to deserve it. However, in order to justify this harsher punishment, they throw in a romantic subplot with the Piper and the young woman, so that when she's killed, it gives him more motive to carry out revenge. Which, yeah, I agree with, as turning the entire town into rats because the wealthy elite ripped him off would be a little unjustified. But the love plot really feels tacked on, and kind of out of place, especially considering he's meant to be some sort of spiritual being. As for the animation, well, the stop motion is okay. It certainly isn't the most fluid out there and isn't too ambitious with the cinematography, but there are moments where it does have nice visuals, such as the dramatic lighting and the creative way to convey dialogue. I also quite like this little jump cut here where you're about to have the cow's head chopped and suddenly we cut to a jug of red wine being filled. One issue I must point out though is that the colour palette is lacking, which gives the film a very dark and dreary look, which causes the characters on screen to blend too much with the background. If you want to see how this is done better, I'd say go take a look at Coraline, where the gloomy backgrounds are contrasted by Coraline's bright colours, making her pop out. And it's also done to make the real world distinguish to the alternative universe, which offers a much more vibrant colour scheme. The film does try to do this, as we have the young innocent woman who's portrayed in a more colourful palette, probably to show her innocence in this bitter world. But she only appears in a couple of scenes, so for the vast majority you are stuck with the dull, dreary palette. For the music, I do quite like the musical score. The flute-like theme is obviously tied nicely with the Pied Piper story, and I did love the dark electric guitar that was used to represent the Piper's anger. Overall, I did quite enjoy this adaptation. It's only 50 minutes long, and is currently available to watch on YouTube. So if you like stop motion, mixed with a dark tone and stylistic design, then I think you'll find this to be a tune that's playing on your wavelength.